Hey guys, it's Neat2Up here, and welcome to Black Dude Reviews, a show hosted by a black dude who's slowly leaning back towards his NES stan era. Super Mario Bros. 2 for the NES is a game that Americans and Europeans got as the sequel for the original Super Mario Bros., which was a commercial success worldwide. The original version of Super Mario Bros. 2 that Japan released for the Famicom Disk System got rejected to be released in America and Europe, due to the game being too similar to the first game, and also due to the game being deemed as too difficult. But we'll talk more about the reasons that game didn't get an international release when we review Lost Levels. Instead of getting Lost Levels as a sequel to the first Mario game, Nintendo of America took another Famicom Disk System game titled Yume Kuju Doki Doki Panic and essentially made a ROM hack out of it, replacing the four main characters in the game with the four main Mario characters: Mario, Luigi, Princess Toadstool, or Princess Peach, and Toad. They also made some changes and improvements as to how things in the game worked. Apparently, Doki Doki Panic was actually originally supposed to be a Mario game, so it's pretty interesting to see Nintendo of America turn Doki Doki Panic into what it originally was meant to be. So let's see how much similar and different this game is compared to the original Mario game, as we review Super Mario Bros. 2 for the NES. As said before, you can play as either Mario, Luigi, Peach, or Toad in this game, and you can switch characters after beating a level. Every character in this game controls a little differently from the rest. Luigi can jump the highest, Toad can pull plants from the ground the fastest, and Peach can hover in midair for about a second and a half. However, Peach takes forever to pull plants out of the ground, Toad's jumping isn't very great, and Luigi can be pretty awkward to control in midair when he's falling. Mario doesn't really have anything significant about his moveset that makes him that much different from the others though. In this game, you no longer stomp on enemies to kill them. You now pick them up and throw them at other enemies to kill them. Or you can pull a vegetable out of the ground and use that to kill the enemy. There are some things from the first Mario game that make a return in this game, like the sprint button, which Doki Doki Panic didn't have, super mushrooms, more on that soon, 1-up mushrooms, and Starman. However, in order for Starman to appear, you have to pick up 5 cherries, which are pretty much everywhere in this game. Also, an interesting thing about this game is that the POW block from the original Mario Bros. Arcade game makes a return in this game. In every level of this game, there are tufts of grass on the ground. When you press the B button when you're over a tuft of grass, you'll pull out whatever's in the ground at that spot. Most of the time it'll be a vegetable, but sometimes it can be a stopwatch, a 1-up, a bomb, a Koopa shell, or a potion that takes you to subspace. In subspace, the area you were in gets reversed, and every tuft of grass you pull out in this area gives you a coin. Also, if you're in the right part of the level, you can get a super mushroom in subspace that'll increase the amount of HP you have. When you're down to 1 HP, you become the little version of yourself. A nice thing about these super mushrooms in subspace is that if you're on 1 HP and you pick up the mushroom, it'll restore all your health points in addition to adding 1 more health point to your health bar. Also, if you use a potion near certain vases, in subspace, those vases are warp zones that will teleport you to later worlds. The coins that you pull out of the ground in subspace are used in the bonus game slot machine after beating the level, where you have chances to earn extra lives for every coin you've collected. If you get a cherry for the first slot, you'll automatically get an extra life regardless of what the other 2 slots are. And if you get a cherry for the first 2 slots, you'll get 2 extra lives, no matter what the last slot is. And if all 3 slots are cherries, you get 5 extra lives. Don't count on getting 3 cherries though, it's very rare. Instead, try to get the timing right to consistently get a cherry for the first slot. But if you get the same object for all 3 slots that's not a cherry, you'll just get 1 extra life. Going back to the actual levels of this game, I would say that the design choices of the levels in this game are pretty unique. You have some levels happening underground that have portions that require you to pick up a bomb and throw it at a bombable wall to progress. And you also have some levels in which you have to ride on Birdo's egg or ride an albatross in order to progress. And you also have some annoying underground sand levels in which you have to dig your way downwards in order to progress. These parts are really tedious and annoying, especially with these shy guys who want to follow you everywhere. It's in levels like these where you want to get a lot of cherries so you can spawn a Starman and mop the floor with these enemies. At the end of every level, you have to fight a boss. The boss at the end of most of the levels is Birdo, whom you have to either throw eggs at or mushrooms at in the later levels. After beating Birdo, you have to pick up the orb that she was holding in order for Mascade to open its mouth so you can advance to the next level. There are 7 worlds in this game, and every world except for the last one has 3 levels. The last world has 2. In the last level of every world, there's a final boss that you have to defeat that's not Birdo. In the first world, that final boss is Mouser. In the second world, it's Triclyde. In the third, it's Mouser again. In the fourth, it's Fry Guy. In the fifth, it's Claw Grip. In the sixth, it's Triclad again, and in the last level, it's Wart. Before facing off against these final bosses, the respective levels have what's essentially a maze in which you must find your way through in order to reach the orb to get to the boss. And the mazes in this game are, I would say, definitely better and more coherent than the mazes in the previous game were. Because here, you do have an idea as to where you are in the maze, and you can definitely have fun getting through these parts without a guide. Though the design and enemy placement of some of the later maze levels can be pretty annoying. More on that later. But anyways, the final boss of this game is Wart. After beating Wart, the game is finished and Subcon is restored to its former state of peace. And it turns out that this whole adventure was taking place in a dream Mario had. So that's Super Mario Bros. 2. What do I think about this game? Well, for starters, I definitely think the music tracks in this game are more catchy than in the last game. Change my mind. The overworld theme, opening theme, heck, even the character selection screen music is really nice to listen to. I love the music, the sound effects, and the art and visuals. This game is definitely a step upwards in those departments. But what about the game? I would say that overall, I had a generally fun experience with this game. This game took a long time for me to beat, but that's kinda how it is with most NES games. They're not supposed to take a short time to beat. When I played through this game for this review, I played as Luigi for the whole game because of his high jumping power, which at times can let you skip really difficult parts of levels. Something I didn't really like about the original Super Mario Bros. Is how floaty the jumps can be in that game. Maybe the other characters don't suffer from this problem that much, but Luigi definitely does. When it comes to dropping back down, he can be pretty awkward to handle. But overall, his movement in this game is nice. The one time for some reason, Luigi just wouldn't respond to my input as I spammed the B button in one of those sand bits. That was kind of annoying. A thing about the difficulty of this game that this game kind of carries over from the original Super Mario Bros. Is that the game progressively gets more difficult as it goes on. I still like that difficulty design choice, but this game's endgame definitely does not pull any punches, especially with its enemy placement in the later levels. Seriously, these sparks can go die in a fire. It's a really good idea to use the beginning parts of the game to grind for 1-ups, because as the game goes on, you'll have less and less opportunities to score large portions of 1-ups like this. The footage you see is the footage of me beating the game for the first time, and I'm not gonna lie, 7-2 sucked up all of my lives and I ended up beating Wart with 1 life left. This is my reaction to me first beating Wart. Yes! 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 Oh my gosh. I don't think my cheering was indirectly saying, yay, I beat the game. I think it was more indirectly saying, yay, the game's finally over. Because I'm not gonna lie, the difficulty and enemy placement of the endgame stages didn't really make the game super fun for me at that point in the game. I'm just speaking for myself, I admittedly am not very good at this game, but I honestly thought that the difficulty of the later levels kind of ruined the overall experience of the game for me. Then again, I kind of say the same thing for a lot of classic games I beat for the first time. I'm sure if I played through this game again, I'd probably have a lot more fun with it, but after beating the game once, it didn't really leave a great taste in my mouth because of how annoying the later stages were to play through. It constantly felt like the game didn't want me to get to the end of the game and that it was purposefully trying to make me lose and make me start all over. Speaking of which, you have 2 continues in this game. If you use them both up, you have to start the game over from scratch. In the original Super Mario Bros., you had practically infinite continues, as there's a cheat in that game where if you hold the A button as you're pressing start, you'll continue at the start of the world you got a game over on. I don't really know why this game couldn't do the same as that game. Besides all that, Super Mario Bros. 2 is fundamentally a good video game. The music, art, and colors are very memorable and lively, and the gameplay is a bit more interesting than the original Super Mario Bros. The characters are all unique in their own ways, for better or for worse, and the controls have definitely seen an improvement since the first game. This game's endgame may be pretty frustrating at times, but that doesn't make this game inherently bad by any means. It's just a design choice by the developers that I think makes sense sense and is a good and balanced design choice in my opinion. Would I recommend this game to someone completely new to Mario? Heck no! Biggest reason being that a lot of very iconic Mario characters and enemies are absent in this game. There are no Goombas, no Koopas, no Lakitus, and most importantly, no Bowser. Where's Bowser at? The fact that a lot of these iconic characters don't show up in this game is one of the many things that really set this game apart from the other Mario games, but just because this game's different doesn't mean it's bad. Besides, this game does add a few things that would be in later Mario games, like Shy Guys and Birdo. Nintendo of America made the sequel to the original Super Mario Bros. A lot different than that game, presumably so that people would remember it and distinguish it well from its predecessor. And I would say they succeeded. Heck, even Nintendo of Japan released Super Mario Bros. 2 for the NES as Super Mario USA for the Famicom. So they basically re-released Doki Doki Panic. Okay. But overall, this game is a nice NES game. So with that, I give Super Mario Bros. 2 for the NES a 4-star rating. Next time we will be reviewing Super Mario Bros. 3 for the NES. So please do subscribe for that. That video will likely be delayed because of stuff happening IRL, but I'll still try to get it done on time. Just make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it. Subscribing is quick and easy, and you can always change your mind. But besides that, leave a like or leave a dislike, and thanks for watching.